All right, guys, so today I'm going to be coaching my team. We're going to be talking a little bit about buyer contingencies. In today's market, obviously, you got a lot of people, a lot of our clients have homes that they need to sell. They're looking to upgrade, downgrade to a second property. However, to capture some of the equity from their current sale to go purchase another house, we got to get it sold. So today we're talking about the importance of contingencies, and we're going to talk about a few different creative deals that I've structured lately and what that looks like, just to paint a picture for some of my agents, and talk about how we can make the process as smooth as possible for our sellers / buyers looking to purchase a home. But again, talking about all about creativity today. So hopefully you guys enjoy it. Today, we're gonna go over a few things, but mainly contract contingencies today. I know a few of you guys had some questions on structuring deals, putting contingencies together, what we're allowed to do, what we're not allowed to do, time frames. Who feels really comfortable with contingencies in here? Addendum, structuring them, getting creative with them, what you're allowed to do, what you're not allowed to do. Yeah. Sherry better know. She's been in the game for a minute. She knows. Everybody know? Okay. So we're going to cover that today, basically. There's, I think that we are going to be seeing a few more contingency options. Obviously, contingent buyers, we're getting their butts kicked right now in the market, but things are leveling out a little bit, and we're starting to get some. I've been pretty successful with getting some contingencies, getting creative with them and putting them together. So I think it's important for you guys. I know you got some of you guys are like, what can we do to get these deals desirable, to get the offer accepted? If I have to sell the house, how can I structure it? I'm going up against a cash offer. What would that look like to help my offer be a little more desirable? So today I want to talk all things that, and I would love for some of you guys to chime in that have had some luck or share some creative stories, and I'll share some of mine and how I've been putting some of these deals together. We'll go over some quick stats and numbers. So for the month of August, we did a total of $6,222,000 in sales on the brokerage. Pretty damn solid. Those are, especially considering how slow things have gotten for a lot of people, I think that was a really, really good month. How are you guys feeling about the market right now? You guys feel like you got buyers and sellers starting to pop their head out again right now? Things starting to pick up, slower? What's your guys' business is looking like out there right now? Slower? I feel like mine got busy. I had a bunch of buyers all of a sudden come out like the last week and a half, 2 weeks it seems like. For me, they're starting to hit the market again and get out there and get interested. And I sent 3 people over this week to get pre-qualified. So that was good. So top sales. This top 1 and 2 was close. Anybody want to guess who it was? Number 3. We had Sydney come in 3rd this month in the brokerage. $695K in total volume closed. Between 1 and 2, this was a very close toss-up. Number 2, Paige, $1,225,000 she closed last month. Damn. Kara was right in front of her with $1,248,000. Close on a deal. So congratulations, you ladies kicked ass. Who in here has done a full-on contingency offer, got it accepted all the way through the transaction? 1, 2, 3. What is a contingent offer? Let's hear you guys. Let's make sure we start at square one so everybody understand. What's a contingent offer?
An offer that's waiting on, it's hinging on something.
Has anyone ever been on a 3-way contingency before? That shit's stressful. You got one that you have like a house you're selling, and then you're trying to buy one, so you're contingent upon that. The sellers of that house, they're going to go buy one, and the people buying your listing are also contingent. So it's like a domino effect. If any one of those 3 fall apart, especially if they're all set to close in one day, it gets real rough. So you have 2 different types of contingencies on a piece of property where you guys are working with the seller. So walk me through this scenario. You guys have a contingent offer on getting accepted. What does that look like? You want to write an offer, and your seller or buyer / seller, but your buyer that's trying to purchase a house is contingent on an offer getting accepted. What does that look like? What's a couple different scenarios of what that would look like?
So my scenario was that my buyers wanted this house up north, but their house wasn't on the market yet.
Yep.
The house has been on the market for quite some time, but she had other offers. So our offer was contingent on us, and I put in their time frames and when it could go to market and be under contract. So I select the option on the actual contingent offer.
Okay.
What am I trying to say?
Yep.
That said contingent upon accepted offer, but not at closing.
Okay.
You still have to write in a date for closing on it though. Even when you say it's gotta be accepted by next 3 weeks, but it's gotta close a month
Yep.
later.
Okay. What does this scenario look like contingent on closing?
You have an accepted offer and you're saying, well, it's gotta close by this date and then I'll go ahead and buy your house.
You got it. You have a property listed and you get an offer from one of these contingent on closing. What do you look for as a seller, like a listing agent in that scenario?
Date,
Call everyone that's within that contract.
the date for sure, and then
Look over the
Well,
purchase
see if they're
contract.
past inspection, see if they're past
Mhm.
appraisal.
Call
Got
the lender.
are we
call the
obligated to
funder.
see all of
I call
their
everyone.
details on
Title
the website?
lender.
Yes.
All of them.
So Tyler asked a really good question for those of you guys that didn't hear it. Are you obligated, maybe you meant aloud as well, to see all of the details of that transaction taking place? What do you guys think?
Yeah,
Yes.
I
Yeah.
would even say hell yeah before I even accept the offer.
Right.
Well, and then-
Why would you be obligated on seeing all of the details on their offer on their house?
Because it has to happen before they can buy your listing.
You got it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I've seen people make this mistake, and it's interesting that they do this and they don't think about this, but they just get an offer. Like I've even had it where we've been contingent and I submitted an offer for my client and the listing agent didn't ask me for like anything. Of course, I didn't say anything because it's not my place to tell him how to do his job or her to do their job. But it was interesting to see that they wouldn't do that. So why is it important that you guys do this? What does those steps look like? So you guys are a listing agent. You get, let's say you receive 3 offers. The highest offer happens to be contingent on the home closing. What do you do as the listing agent? If you're considering that offer, how do you advise your seller if the seller's like, well, I think we should take that one, the offer's higher? What should you guys do in that scenario as a listing agent? What does the steps look like? Walk me through that, like where your mind goes.
Do your due
Purchase
diligence
contract
first.
from that other one.
Okay?
Call the lender, get the purchase contract and all the info from the agent.
Yep.
What process or how far along in the process are they? And then call their cousins. No.
If they're
Ask for 3 references.
If they're not far along,
They're
I would
blind
run
tied.
comps on it to see if it's even gonna be close to appraising, because that could be a big problem.
Yeah, absolutely. You could do, makes sense. If they don't, what do you guys have an appraisal contingency? You almost want to pick apart their offer as if it was your own listing in some ways, right? Because who's to say that buyer agent / listing agent, they were the listing agent of their buyer's house, right? They're like, hey, I got my client's house under contract. Who's to say they did their job? This happens quite a bit. I've had this happen many times where I'll go through and poke holes in their offer that their own listing agent didn't see. Well, did you guys, I'm looking at your contract and to your point, you guys got an offer that's way over, but is this thing going to appraise? Yeah, it's good. We got an appraisal waiver. Where? It doesn't say that anywhere in your contract. Oh shit, I forgot about that. Right? So this is where you guys, because why is it your guys', not that I should say it's your guys' problem, but why would it be a responsibility of you guys to do that?
Yeah,
Right?
That's,
because you
We're
could
supposed to
lose
be-
another good offer.
You got it.
You go with this highest one and.
Let's say you have a cash offer that's 5 or 10 grand less, but you have this offer that's 10 grand higher, but it's contingent on closing. Which one would you coach your seller to take?
Depends.
Yeah, I mean, obviously.
Good answer. Good answer.
Depends if you do your due diligence.
We're in this world where everybody thinks cash is king, and that's not always the
'Cause
case.
they could be closing in 5 days and be past other inspections and appraisal, and
Exactly.
it could be good to go.
You got it. Exactly. This is a very, there's no exact answer on this, right? And this is where, this is one of those things that's going to make you guys a good agent, right? Like what considers me to be a good agent, right? Is your ability to think through these things. What if, all the what if scenarios that could happen, weigh out all the pros and cons. If this deal falls apart, what do I have as a backup? And then you're going through and making sure that their offer is as solid as possible. To Hunter's point, right? That could be a really Loctite deal. They've already made it through their 10-day inspection period. They're already past the appraisal. They're in the final leg of closing. You call the lender of the buyer of that house, hey, the seller just put an offer in. I know you're representing the buyer of their property. What's the situation? You do all your homework, all your due diligence. It's solid, boom, deal closes. You guys are happy, right? If you don't do that, you can run yourself the risk of having quite a few issues, obviously. So Contingent offer on being accepted. I know we kind of touched on it. What are the couple different scenarios of that? What does that look like? So you have a buyer, they do have a house they need to sell, but I want to put an offer on this house. What are a couple different scenarios that could look like with your buyer/seller if it's not already under contract? What does that look like?
Give them to get it on the market.
If by, yeah, check.
Okay.
Where are you getting to?
Who has a buyer like that right now? They want to buy a house. Yeah, let's go out and shop, but my house isn't even on the market yet.
I did.
Got 3 in here. 4 maybe, shaking a head. So I want to, that brings up a really good point. Because just in this room, and I got one I'm working with right now. Chris is showing them how. So we got 5 people in this room right now that have a buyer that is out wanting to buy a house. Out of these 5, how many of them have to sell their current house to buy a house? Okay, mine doesn't, so I'm a little more lucky than you guys. 5. Oh, so we got 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So 5 out of 6 of our buyers that are out. How many? Okay, so out of you guys, who's out showing them houses right now, knowing that their house needs to be under contract?
I'm just paying for
I've only a couple times.
Like a few.
Only a
I have
couple
a
times.
limit.
Shannon's like,
I have
fuck
a
you guys,
limit.
I'm not
I'll do
taking
it
anybody.
like 2 or 3 times, and then we have that conversation.
Okay.
Like,
That's
just so
how
they-
I am, same way. Yeah.
Just so they know, like, that there's something legitimately out there that meets their criteria.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah.
And then they usually end up finding something, and they're like, oh, I want this. And then I'm like,
Too bad.
we gotta get your house up on the market, and usually that kind of gets the ball rolling.
Okay. Who else want? That's yes, exactly. So that kind of honestly caught me a little off guard. So we got 6 people in here. Where are you guys at in the process with your buyer if it's out looking at houses? How close are you to getting their house on the market, even though you're out showing them houses right now?
I sent them the documents.
Kinda,
And they got cold.
Yeah,
And how
I mean,
many
like,
are?
they gave me a date in mind of when we could potentially list, but like, in the meantime, they're just like dragging their feet to make sure that there's something that they want. So I mean, like, I have a timeline of like, we're gonna list by this date, again, that could change,
So why are they afraid to list?
that they're not gonna find anything.
Okay.
That their house
Very
is-
valid reason. We
their
had
house
Amy.
is gonna sell.
Amy and I just had, that's just it. We got 7 actually, because Amy, I forgot about her, the one we went to last night. So we have 7 buyers in that situation / sellers. So afraid to find a home. I know that was an objection that her and I had. What else?
It's gonna sell too quick. they're
Sell
gonna be
too quick.
homeless.
Okay.
I know where they have it.
So not going to find something. My house is going to sell too fast before I find something.
Yeah.
Anybody else have another? Mine, the house is just, he needs to do a bunch of work. So he doesn't want to show it or anything, and he wants to buy something, move out, and then put his up for sale. So I'm in a little fortunate he's going to go that route, so that's good.
That's a different situation.
Yeah. And it's good we're walking through these, right? Because these are all about options, right? This isn't such a black and white topic right here, but these kind of discussions are what's going to make you guys a very creative agent, right? You guys are going to find there's different ways. I'll share how I've been structuring some of mine, examples of how I've gotten around some of these objections, and I want to hear some of your guys' that have done this before, how you got around it. So the house is going to sell too fast. What are you doing to overcome that with them right now?
Coming soon.
Coming soon, okay?
Well, luckily, we're in a market where we can do post-possession is,
Pretty easy.
something we can use to negotiate.
Yep,
It's gonna make them real comfortable that they're not gonna be homeless.
yep.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing.
But you
We'll just
can't,
have this.
there's no guarantee.
Here.
So-
Ask them if they have a family
There's
member
nothing.
left to move
If your
in with.
house sells, you can come in.
Yeah, what options do you have so
I
sells
threw
too?
together like a little Google Drive of just like a soft marketing to like private Facebook groups and
Yep.
like investors, because it like needed a little bit of work.
Yep,
But it was still like a solid house.
okay.
So, and then I created a lot of interest that way, just so I can show them, hey, I have people that are saying, hey, let me know.
Have any of you guys offered cash to any sellers by chance? Like, hey, would you be willing to take a cash offer on your house? I know you did, so that was a good. Anybody else?
Time.
One time? Okay.
Oh, yeah, I read.
It may not be, who feels comfortable with the cash offer scenario in here? Like like what it looks like, how would you structure it? Okay, perfect. So those guys that make a cash offer, what does that sound like to your client? So here's the thing. You guys have a seller, right?
Oh, okay, yeah.
You guys have a seller.
I get what you're saying.
And to Kara's point, and a couple of you guys, I don't really want to put my house on the sale or on the market for sale because I'm afraid it's going to sell too fast and I'm not going to find anything. But then what happens if they find something, right? And then their house isn't under contract, so you're playing that teeter-totter of, limbo where what would be the best scenario for that seller?
A
Okay, why would a cash offer be a best scenario?
Because then they can go buy
Guaranteed.
something else immediately.
It's pretty much guaranteed, and then, quick close.
Or close when you want.
It gives them a.
That only matters is if they can stay in it
What-
until they find something else.
You got it.
It's
What
usually
what is the objection, the common objection you guys are hearing right now? So this is where
You don't get homeless.
this is where you guys got to like listen to the what is the problem, right? The problem that I can solve for you. And that's where you get creative. What option do we have, right? Well, we got leasebacks. That's a potential. What's the downside of the leaseback? Is it guaranteed?
No, what's coming?
Pain in the ass.
It's kind of a pain in the ass. If you forget to list certain items on a leaseback, exclude certain items on a leaseback.
Security deposit.
Security deposit on a leaseback. They're doable. They're fine. But it's not guaranteed, right? Especially right now as the market's slowed down, who's to say we're going to get an offer that is willing to do a leaseback? Is it probable? Sure. Guaranteed? No, right? So it's still a potential concern. Bless you. What other concerns with that? They want to list a house, but it's going to sell too fast. What's another potential, what is the concern with that, right? I'm going to be homeless.
It's just timing. They're
timing.
most
How can you,
What they want.
it's the timing,
problem is
right?
the
It's
timing.
the timing.
They can't picture how to get into another house and sell their house. They can't picture the time frame.
Yep.
Like, at all.
So that's why I take care of it for you.
Who in here feels like they're really good at solving that time? That is the problem. It's the timing. We know they want to sell, and we know they want to buy. It's that in between process of what is this real messy 30-day window area going to look like for me, right? That's the concern. They don't know. Some people have never sold a house before. Some of them are like, maybe they went through a crap situation before where they sold their house and they were having to stay with family or friends, and that was a pain point for them. Who is really good at bridging that for them? Hunter?
I felt like I was pretty good on
Okay.
with them.
So here's the thing. I would lay it out on paper, and what I would do is, so I like you mentioned, a menu. That's what I've always had. I started doing the menu option like 5 years ago when another agent had kind of mentioned it, and I liked the way it sounded. And by a menu option, you walk into a listing appointment, and you have a full option for them, right? So what that means is you don't want to give them a reason to go to an iBuyer. You don't want to give them a reason to go with any other agent. You're like, listen, I can offer you this on market all the way to this at a cash offer and everything in between. As long as people have options and you give them an option to choose from, you've just increased your odds of landing that listing. If you go in there one-dimensional, well, I'm a wholesaler or a flipper and I want to give you just cash. Well, I don't know if I want that. Well, you're probably not going to get that deal if they're not sure they want that, right? If that doesn't work for them and you're not offering them other options, right? Well, I'm a traditional agent and I want to go on the market. Well, I don't know if my house is going to sell quick enough or too fast and timing, and well, we'll just put it on the market and let's just see what happens, see the best offers we get and go from there, right? And you don't offer them anything else, and then what if somebody comes in? Well, I'll tell you what, like an offer pad or an open door, we'll give you cash and we'll close when you want to close on your house. Who do you think's going to get that deal now?
The other person.
Who's lost a listing in here to offer pad or open door? Anybody?
Not yet.
Kara lost one, just so you guys know. And I went on that listing appointment with her. It was probably like 5 or 6 months ago. Lead reached out, we went over all the numbers. She was like, we want to get, good money. We got to find something, yada, 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 yada. And that was probably our fault because we didn't even mention like cash offers. It didn't seem like she really wanted that. She didn't even bring the concern up, so we just didn't touch on it. And then we found out she went and sold the open door. Called, why the hell did you sell the open door? Well, I just wanted a guaranteed like close, and we just didn't know. And I was talking about that deal you had, that one we lost over in Rancho Bella Vista. That lady, your friend that sold the offer pad or open door to went to that listing appointment.
So will open door and offer pad, can we call them as the realtor and say, hey, I have this property?
You absolutely
I
can.
have a referral right now with Open Door.
Absolutely.
That one in Awatuki that I listed.
550 was what it was. That
No,
how?
it was like 680.
So $6,800 she still got on that just for referring them out. She basically wedged herself in that deal through a loophole of they allow referral of 1%. So for example, you guys go to a listing and somebody says they have a house to sell, and you send it to, you call your rep over at Open Door or Offer Pad. I got somebody, are you interested in potentially buying this house? And they decide to pick it up. You get a referral fee of 1%. And then what she did was said, well, I know you guys have 1% built into your business model because you give it as a referral anyways. So how about you just pay me 1% as a listing? And they were bitching and moaning, we don't do that. She's like, what difference does it make? You're going to pay 1% to a referral fee just to pay me as a listing agent now. And then they had an override and they said, okay. And she squeezed herself in that deal and still got paid on it.
Do you have to get an ER or
She already had an ER signed with them. She had the house listed on the MLS.
so they don't go behind your back?
And the guy, the seller went and was like going, after we had it listed, he was just tired of showings. He was like, I don't want to do showings anymore. I just want this house gone. And it was only on the market like 3 days. And he went to Zillow, Trulia. He put all these cash request offers in on their houses. And of course, what do? So they actually submitted an offer. They didn't even check that the house was on the market. They just sent a cash offer over to this guy. And we're like, whoa, this thing's listed. We have an ER with you, basically. So she types a counter offer back with her name on it and sends it back to OfferPad. Squeezed herself back in the deal. So
So I don't know why I'm not wrapping my head around this. She's in the selling side, she's
Yep.
a seller, which usually was getting the 2.5%.
yep.
But she's representing him, selling it to OfferPad, and they're paying her an additional 1%, or
No.
it's just 1%?
No, what was going to happen was she was going to have to he wanted to just cancel. He was just like, I'm done. I'm just going to take OfferPad. And to be honest, their offer, their offers right now have been extremely fair. I'll be very truthful with you guys. Like it used to be OfferPad's offers were low. Like his offer, we had it listed at I think he was listed a little high at like 570, which was a little on the high side, I think 569, somewhere around there. They came in at 550, net 550 to him, which was a really fair offer.
Since he had an ER with her,
Yep.
was he technically obligated?
He,
if
he
OfferPad-
technically was obligated to perform and pay her, the seller was.
On her
But
2.5%.
Right.
She allowed that
Yep.
to like pretty much.
He
cancel that
he wanted to
obligation.
just cancel and take OfferPad's offer is what he wanted to do. He's like, hey, I think I'm just going to take this off the market because we couldn't even get an offer on market that matched OfferPad's offer. Just couldn't do it. Like it
She had an offer
Which one was it, that's
before.
Awatuki. The Awatuki house. So we couldn't get an offer that would have netted it more on the market than what their offer was. And their offer was fair. And we had that talk like, hey, honestly, in doing what's in the best interest of the client, that's a fair offer, right?
I gotta go get our food.
They don't deliver?
No, it's there.
Oh, all right.
Where about?
So,
What? Where did you miss that?
Did she give you lap time?
yeah. So what they did was he had put in a request. He basically, without telling us, had just submitted hey, give me a cash offer on my house after it was already on the market. And they didn't even check to verify it was on the market. They just pulled they kind of dropped the ball too. So then they submit an offer and he's like, yeah, I just got an offer. And we're looking at it like, wait a minute, your house is on the market. How the hell did you get an offer? Because they didn't even put our name on there. And we're like, it's listed with us. So technically they should have submitted that offer with us on there. So she responded and on the offer filled out her name and sent it back to them. And then they were bitching. They're like, we don't pay commissions on this. Like this was an offer to the seller. And then we basically negotiated our way back in the deal because we said, we know for a fact as a referral, you guys offer 1%. So just say I referred you this deal. And they're like, we don't do that. Well then, okay, just say I was a referral and give me a 1% referral fee. Well, we don't do that. Well, what's the difference, right? You guys want the house and we know it's built into your your numbers to give a 1% referral. And so after a little back and forth, they finally agreed. And she still got, so did she get a full 2.5%? No, but the guy got cash, sold as is. She still ended up getting $650K on it, $6,500 at 1% on a deal and she's helping him purchase something. So that's a situation, right? 6,500, is it 12 grand or 13 G she would have got? No, but it's better than nothing than losing the deal and he got to sell the house as is, and go move on and buy something, right?
Is
So
OfferPad and Open Door?
It's
like
an
their
actually,
same-
it was an open door, it's an open.
Open door,
Is
yeah.
it their same, the 1%?
No, I don't know about Open Doors offering one. I don't. OfferPad, we have a referral program with them too. I think it's the same thing, 1%. Yeah, you know what? I think you're right. I think it is 1%. I'll follow up with Kathy on it. She's
So
our.
let's say that Kara wouldn't have done that.
Yep.
She had an ER with him
Yep.
for 60 days or something.
Yep.
And he, behind her back, was doing what
Yep.
he was doing,
Right.
obviously.
Yep.
And so, then came to her and was like, hey, I just took a cash offer, like, I want to be done.
She could have legally gone after him for the commission.
Okay.
Yeah.
And like my situation, if I would have had my buyers.
Yep.
Be in a contract, would that be the same, like?
Yep,
if
he would have owed.
He would have owed me.
2.5%, whatever the commission was on there, yeah. So, and this comes down to a personal thing and how you guys run business. I'd be lying to you guys if I said I haven't lost clients like that. I've had clients that walked into open houses and got, snatched by the listing agent that was there because I didn't have an ER sign with them, or a buyer broker. I don't do business that way, but I'm not going to tell you guys not to do business that way. It's your guys' personal business. You know what I mean? If you're like, hey, I'm just not going to get burned, I will 100% support you guys on that. No problem at all. For me, just the amount of times I haven't been versus the time I have, it just doesn't, it's not in my business model. And for me, I just go deep on my relationships with them. You know what I mean? And not to say you guys don't either, but I've always just relied on that. And again, have I gotten burned? Absolutely. I've probably in my career lost, I could think of about 3 to a similar situation. 3 over my entire career. Is it something that's going to make me change that model or get uncomfortable with all my other buyers and, hey, sign this, sign that? Probably not. If it was a really reoccurring issue, I'd probably rethink that strategy, but I just want to give you guys like an insight on how I see it. If you guys are like, hey, make all your buyers sign it, I would say do it, and I'll support you on that fully and not tell you you're wrong either. It's your guys' business, and what your guys' threshold is on losing a client here and there and not letting it piss you off too bad, I guess.
You the buyer broker?
Yeah. So.
On contingent offer process, so a big
Yep.
question that my clients had were earnest deposit.
Yep.
That was a big concern because what if they get to a certain point where theirs falls through or the other falls through?
Yep.
When can we get our EM back?
Yep.
So I don't know if you can kind of.
All negotiable. But let me run a couple scenarios by you guys on how I've structured a couple of these lately and some of the ways that I've done this to show you guys just how creative you can get with this. So one that we just closed on was that Seville house that I had, that little single level. I closed 2 that were 3 doors apart from each other. I had a big 2-story I sold. Neighbor a couple doors down wanted to sell theirs, and that's how I got them, was from that house being listed. They called me off the sign and wanted to sell. So they came to me, hey, we want to buy a house on an acre, yada, 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 cool. They did have to sell their house. They were already pre-qualified though. And we went out and they saw a couple houses. Then I ended up finding this house that they loved. They're like, we love this house. And it was listed at $650K, I think, buy side. Their house was worth probably, I think we listed it at $430. So I'm gonna put current home. $430K. They did have to sell this house to buy the one that they wanted to purchase, basically, is what it was. And we had to get it on the market. So the plan originally was, when I had the initial consultation, that's the one Justin actually went to me on. So we went in, we talked to him, beautiful home, great shape, really nice. We talked about numbers. We talked about the process. We're going to have to list your house up. We'll do a coming soon for 30 days, do a little pre-marketing. I was pretty confident it would sell, single level, 3-bed, 4-bed, 2-bath in Seville, under $500K. We knew it would go. And then all of a sudden they call me the next day. We found the house, the one. And I'm like, okay. So we go out. Actually, we looked at a couple of them. There was like 3. And then the day after that, we found this one that they really liked. Big house on an acre and a quarter. It's like 2,800 or 3,000 square foot, I think. Beautiful home. And they wanted that one, and it just hit the market. So I called the listing agent and I said, do you have any offers on it yet? And he goes, no, not yet, a couple verbals. And I said, here's the deal. I have to sell their current house. Would you guys be open to a contingent offer? And he goes, is it even on the market yet? So you guys are in this scenario. What are, just curious, like, let's say you guys are in my scenario. I'm curious to hear what you guys would do with this. So you have a seller, because I know a couple of you guys are all in this right now. How would you structure this deal off the top of your head?
So I would say that if you guys are willing to entertain it, home will be on the market within 24 to 48 hours.
Okay.
And I would give them details about the house.
Okay.
Very confident it could sell.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then also don't listing price.
Yep.
Don't shoot at your top. Just have that conversation with your clients. Like, look, we may have to sit a little, somewhat under or right at comps.
Yep.
Just so that it'll go quick.
Yep.
Even then, it could still be bid up.
Yep.
So.
That's pretty much exactly what I did. Good job. Yeah. So on theirs, we had that talk. So they had hoped for, these were one of those people, my house is worth $450. And I said, I can't guarantee you it is worth $450 based on all the numbers. Didn't have a pool. Had some things working against it. It was a little dated inside. It was clean, but it was dated. It wasn't anything highly upgraded. All the closest comps were $420 on this house, by the way. So we had that talk. Well, we can go to $450, but if it doesn't sell and you guys want this house, because the way that I structured it is, I told I think we put an offer in, it was like Friday. It's like a Friday or Saturday. We wrote an offer on this one. I told the listing agent, I'll have their house on the market in 3 days. So I said, I'll have photos, listing, everything. This thing will be on the market if you accept our offer. And we didn't beat them. Now, on this one, we didn't beat them up on the price. They weren't priced terribly, but I told my seller/buyer, you can't beat this guy up. If your house isn't on the market, you're going to pretty much want to give them ballpark what they're asking in exchange for them working with you to get your house sold. If you come over here and tell this guy, I'll give you $630, they're going to tell you fuck off because there's just nothing going for you in your favor right now. You know what I mean? Yeah, we went in at $650, which luckily, that was actually a very fair price for that house. Yeah.
Anything else crazy in that?
No. So I said, I'm going to have it on the market in 3 days. And then I said, I'll have it under contract in 10 days. I gave myself a 7-day window. So from the time it went live to the time we accepted a contract, 7 days or 5 days. It was either way, it was by like that Sunday. If they accepted an offer, they said, if you guys accept an offer by that Sunday, we will have it, the following Sunday, a week. I gave myself a 7 day. So it was a 7-day window total, 3 days, and then accept 4 days of basically marketing and taking in an offer. I said, we will have it under contract, guaranteed. And then what I said to guarantee you is we're going to shorten the inspection period up on this house. We'll shorten it up to the same 7-day window. So during this time that we're doing our inspection period, I'm going to do whatever I can to get it sold. I gave them the address. I showed them the comps. I said, here's what we're listing at. Kind of just like what you guys had said about, basically sell it. Here's why it's going to sell. Here's why it's going to move. It's not anything crazy. It'll go. And I said, after that, our EM goes hard. And we put down a big EM. I think it was like $4,000 or something like that on that. I said, if in 7 days I don't have his house under contract, you get to keep our earnest deposit. And you can choose to cancel on us if you want to. I even wrote that in there. So I got pretty aggressive with it. Yep. So we ended up going, so I said, you really got nothing to lose. Because the other option is you guys can sit on the market, wait for a couple of offers. I said, at worst on this one, you give me 7 days, you go under contract with me, and if I don't perform by day 7, you cancel, you keep my EM if I'm not under contract on it. I said, then your buyer's up $4,000. They just got $4,000 for holding a week off on the market. And I talked to my sellers/buyers about it, and they were like, okay, if you can get it done, let's do it. So we put their house on the market. That's that one we ended up getting 24 offers on. Got a bid up to $470K.
Holy shit.
As is. And then on this one, I negotiated a 2-week lease back for free because this one, they wanted to paint on it. They're like, we want to do painting and flooring, some other shit they needed to do before they moved in. So as soon as this one got under contract, I immediately sent them over the offer. And I showed them the whole spreadsheet. I said, here's all the offers we got on this thing. We got 22 offers on this property. Got bid up to $470, and he was very content with that. I was like, worst case scenario, one falls through. I got 21 others in line to buy this thing. Go ahead.
So did he not accept your offer until you already had it on market?
Nope, he accepted it. So I gave him, yep. I said, give me 3 days to get it on the market. Give me 7 days to get it under contract. If by day 7, it's not under contract, you can cancel, like the deal's done. Or if you move forward, give me an extra week. Basically, if I move forward, then you can keep my earnest deposit, our full deposit. So I said, you got nothing to lose. And they really didn't, other than waiting an extra week. Worst case scenario, my deal fell apart. But there was enough on the line for him to take it. And then, like I said, we ended up getting him $470 on this one. So I got him 40 G's more on that. And then we negotiated a 2-week lease back. I will tell you guys, if I listed it, I think at what he wanted me to list at $450, I don't think I would have got the results I did. Because at $430, it was a highly desirable property. And we had that talk too. We ran the numbers, and that was his bottom number that made sense. I knew that at $430, it still fit within his budget of how much money he needed to get out. and to put down on his other house, and he's still making a fair profit. Anything over that 430 was just kind of his own personal, I don't want to say greed, but it was like, that's icing on the cake, right? That's my buffer. And I said, well, we got two choices. You could try to go for that extra icing, or you can, you want this house, then you need to be okay with at least accepting this number right here. Anything over that, I'm going to get you guys as a bonus. But I would say we price it low, because we only got 4 days to get this thing gone. So how bad do you guys want this, or how bad do you guys want to lose $4,000? And he's like, okay. So they just put their trust in me, right? There was a lot of communication and a lot of moving parts in that particular deal. But it got done. We got it all done and moved forward. Also didn't beat the shit out of these guys. I think we also wrote in there that we wouldn't ask for anything that was under like $1,000 or $2,000. We're not going to nitpick you. We ended up coming back. There was a couple roof tile or shingles that needed to be done in an AC service or something like that. So, yeah. The other deal I did, that one that I have up on Thundercloud, the $1 million one, I had that big ass White Castle house. I got that one under contract. Any of you guys know how I got that one or what the deal is on that, besides Sherry?
Is that like your
I know, I got all the insides.
4 moving parts or 3 moving parts?
Well,
One?
2. Homebot, yeah, Homebot on that one. Thank you. So Homebot, I put up, a guy had called me 2 years ago to sell his house. He had a house over in Santana Ranch, which is right there on Higley and Pecos, Chris's neighborhood actually. Had a house he was thinking about selling back then, wanted something with a bigger piece of property. I went and looked at it, and they ended up not listing because they just didn't get the amount of money that they had wanted, basically. So I threw him in a Homebot app randomly. As I was going through, I was telling you guys I've been adding 1 or 2 people a day. That's my daily task. I send this guy a Homebot app, and that afternoon I get a text message from him, and he's like, hey, I got your email on Homebot. Is my house really worth that? And I'm like, shit, I don't know. Let me go back and double check and look, I just tossed it in there. And I ran comps, and his house was probably worth about $690 to $700K on the market is what it would have brought. Nice house, it's like 3,500 square foot, big, beautiful lot. And I said, why do you guys want to sell? He goes, I'm looking for something on property, acreage. He's a car guy, he needs a shop. He's got, side-by-sides, razors, all that kind of stuff. And I said, what are you looking for? Something, a couple acres, 3,000 square foot house. I said, I got something. And I showed them, and they loved it. I went and showed them the house, actually. So he's like, okay, great. I got to sell my house first. So I talked to my sellers, and I said, hey, I got buyers that are interested in this thing. They want to buy it, but I got to go sell their house first. And they're like, okay, sounds good. But I knew that my seller had only bought his house a year ago. I helped him actually buy Thundercloud last year when all the COVID was going on. For those of you guys that were here, that place was a shithole, looked really ugly. And then my client went in and dropped a couple $100,000 into the place and rehabbed it, and it looks killer now.
You make a pretty good profit on it?
He's doing okay. Yeah, he's a couple hundred on that profit. So what's the problem if he bought that last year? Capital gains. He hasn't owned the property for 2 years. What can he do?
1031.
1031 exchange. So I knew that, and I knew he kind of was wanting to do that. He's actually my accountant, so he was talking about going and reinvesting the money or doing something. And I knew he wanted to buy like rental, basically. That's where he would have to put his into another investment property. So I said, I have an idea. Would you be open to buying their house if they bought your house, and you can use your your profits, your 1031 exchange to purchase their house and pay cash? Because he was actually going to be netting about $700K. He put a lot of money down when he bought it, rehab, flip. And I said, well, why don't you maybe buy their house? And then so we ran the rental comps, and the rental comps in that neighborhood are freaking good for what it is. And this house, 3,500 square foot, pool, big garage, like it's 5 bedroom, 3 full bathrooms, downstairs master. So, we're running the numbers, and for, a $700K investment, the rents on that thing would almost be $4,000 a month on that house. So he'd get a $4,000 a month return on $700K investment. That's a really good ROI. So we're running the numbers, we go over it. They call a property management company that manages, they give them about the same ballpark figures, 38 to $4,000 a month for that house. And he's like, yeah, let's do it. Let's put the numbers together. Then the problem comes where my seller can't quite get qualified for the full $1 million purchase, basically. They were like 20 grand short. The numbers weren't quite there. So we're like, shit, my seller's like, well, I'm not gonna take, 20 grand less. Basically, we were listed at a $999, just under $1 million. So I said, well, why don't these guys lower their price down to $670? I'll cut commission a little bit on that because we don't have to pay a listing agent any commission on this deal, right? Or a buyer's agent, because I'm just gonna be the listing agent, quote unquote, if you're willing to bring yours down 20. So you bring yours down 20, they'll bring theirs down 30. So from 700, bring it to 670. You bring yours from $1 million down to 980. You're still netting the same. They're netting the same, because otherwise you guys are just going up 20 grand on each side. Just bring the numbers down to where it makes sense, and it worked. So, and then when they went to do the home inspections, I worked it out to where, hey, you don't ask for shit, you don't ask for shit. Easy deal, right? When that was 30 G's in commission between working both of those transactions, just getting creative with the process, right? Where they're basically doing a house swap as is on both properties. We had to lower the price down to fit that seller's budget, but net everything the same. There's just a lot of moving parts in that, but we were able to get it done. So we're going to close on that too.
How's that only 30 grand if you're working 4 sides of it?
2 sides of it. I'm not keeping both sides of the commission on that. I discounted anyways on my accountant's deal because I've bought and sold probably 8 houses for him now. He's a really good client of mine. So I take care of him on that end. Probably going to end up selling this house for him in a couple of years because he's just one of those guys that constantly reinvests his money into things. And again, it's just I cut commissions down, right? I don't get tied up on a number. I'm not going to say I have to net 2%. I have to net 2%. I look at it as by the time this is closing, how much work I'm putting into it. Does it make sense, right? Who cares what the percentage is? The price points are there. Would any of you guys in this room going to tell me you want to do it for 30 G's?
No way. I mean, I would.
Now, what if I said you can do it for 1% on both sides?
Yeah, way. For sure.
Why not, right? But how many people get stuck on a percentage, right? Like, oh, I'm not listing it for, would you take a 1% on a $2 million house, or would you take a 3% on a 300K? You see what I'm saying? Like, I wouldn't get tied up on that number. I see a lot of agents get stuck on these numbers, and it's your guys' paychecks. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but get creative with it, right? Like, if you got to reduce a commission side, like on that deal, to where the numbers make sense, both parties are happy, you feel like, hey, I'm compensated fairly, I brought you guys a killer deal together, we worked it out, win, 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 when everybody's winning. Am I going to cry over a % or 2 on a commission type deal? I think about the long term on that too, where this client's already bought and sold 8 houses from me. What's the longevity of that going to look like as he continues to use me as like his investing agent? You know what I mean? Does that make sense for you guys?
What does a, go ahead.
I was just gonna ask, where's he gonna live?
So he actually already bought another house, a spec, it's not a spec, it's a semi-custom home on the back side of the mountain that they're getting ready to move into that basically. Yeah. Which he's financing that one, but he's paying cash for the rental. So what he's paying cash for that rental now, that's $700K at $3,800 a month. His new house mortgage is only $2,500. So the rental's actually paying his mortgage and still putting $1,100 in his pocket.
Nice.
1031 exchange, how is that process done? Is it anything more than we have to do? Or is it...
You disclose it. You can say, hey, this buyer's purchasing it's a 1031 exchange property, but mainly title is going to handle that. And then it's more of an accountant thing. It's basically the accountants when you have, so same thing with capital gains. I know a few of you guys had that talk this morning when we were in here. We were discussing capital gains and how to calculate that stuff. Once again, capital gains, what are you taxed on?
Profit.
Your net profit, what you're netting from that sale.
Net profit, yeah. A lot of sellers think capital gains, oh man, I bought this house for $350, I'm selling it for $500, so I got to pay 20% on $500K. No, it's on your profits, whatever. After you pay commissions, closing costs on that property, title fees on that property. If they bought that property and they dumped $100,000 into it to make it worth $500K, that's an expense, that's not a profit, right? So it's whatever, after you take all expenses, money invested, professional service fees, title fees, and you subtract all of those to get that number down to what you're really putting in your pocket, walking away as a profit on that deal. That's what you pay capital gains on.
What if you did like a $50,000 remodel?
You subtract the $50K because you invested that into the property, right? So it comes off your net. So you bought a house for $3, you sold it for $4, you put $50K into it, and you only made $50K, well then you pay capital gains on that $50K. Minus any realtor costs, closing costs, any of that. With that being said, do not advise clients though of like that's one of those things, like that's the fundamentals of it. But every accountant does things a little bit different, right? Some accountants might, hey, I can 1031 exchange this for you if you go buy this property. I can write off a little more. Like that's kind of out of our wheelhouse. Those are the fundamentals of it. If you have a client if that's a decision for them, right? Like, oh, I don't want to sell because I think I have to pay capital gains on 500 grand. You can have that conversation. It's not on your total sale price. It's on your total net profits on the property, just so you know. And that usually will make them feel a lot better, because I've had sellers that legitimately think, like, they have a new build, they live in it for a year, I don't love it, I'm going to sell it, but I don't want to pay 20% on 500K or 600. It's like, no, you don't pay 20% on that because it's not all profit, you know.
So could you thundercloud seller, would he have had to pay capital gains if he would have put that money into his
Yep, personal residence.
So
you got it.
He could have done it either way.
You got it. Yep.
Right. You don't have to put it into an investment property, as long as you put it into a home.
It does have to be investment. For a 1031 exchange, it's an investment property to an investment property. So he was claiming his house was an investment because he bought it, flipped it. He was living in it, but he flipped it to make a profit. So he was claiming it was an investment property, and he re-rolled it into an investment. Now, right or wrong, I don't know. I'm not an accountant. He is. His problem, not mine.
Yeah, so if it's a residence.
Right. Primary residence, and you're selling your...
another resident.
If you're selling a primary to another primary, you're still entitled to capital gains. It's an investment strategy, basically. It has to be 1031. So you can't have your primary residence, live in it, and say, this is my primary, I just decided I don't like my primary anymore. Now, again, this gets where creative. If you're like, I bought it as a primary, but it was an investment, with the intention, that's a gray area. I'm not going to touch it. That's an accountant's job, how they word that and what they do. But by term and definition, 1031 exchange is rolling profits from one investment into another investment. Yeah. How you live in that investment or take, I don't, that's a gray area I don't want to get.
Outside of the 1031 exchange, like
if it's just your personal house, you bought a new build, I don't love this new build anymore. I just decided I want another community after a year, and you sell and you make 50 grand, you're going to technically be liable for capital gains on that.
Even if you put it into your next house.
You got it, yep, because it's still profit made. So, yeah. Does that make sense? For those of you guys that have done contingency offers as well, how else, is there anything else creative you guys have done on any of yours, or how did you guys structure those by chance?
I think making the buyers put, if you're on the selling side,
Mm-hmm.
or if you're on the buyer side, it goes
Mm-hmm.
for both, I guess.
Sure.
Making them have a little more skin in the game and saying, I'm gonna have under contract by this time.
Yep.
Or earnest money non-refundable.
Yeah.
Someone with a bunch of dates.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Deadlines are a huge one that helps out. So if you go in on a contingency and their house isn't even on the market yet, and you're like, we'll just get it under contract, I would never advise one of my sellers to probably take that. Because number one, let's say there's an open window on that, and let's say I'll have this house closed in 60 days, and you agree to 60 days. What's the problem with that? Let's say you're a listing agent and you accept an offer, and in their contingency, all it says is we'll be closed in 60 days. What's the problem with that?
Well, they have a month to get it under contract.
And then inspection, appraisal, and everything still has to happen, so you should put.
But what if you don't put a month? What if you just say we'll be closed in 60 days?
I feel like I'm missing it.
Do you have like a start and end time?
You got it. So here's the problem. If you give them 60 days, and to your point, right, you said, well, they got only 30 days to get it under contract. Why do they only have 30 days to get under contract?
It's going to take about 30 days to close it.
Right. But if you don't put that in there, who's to say they're not like, they go all the way up to day 45 or 50. Oh, we're going to hope for a cash offer, cash buyer. Now you just wasted a whole shit ton of time, right? So to tighten up your contract for your seller, if you're going to accept something like that, put deadlines, put time frames in there. That's what that additional terms section's for. When you guys have the additional terms, put that in there. You know, if their house isn't even on the market yet, maybe it is on the market, maybe it's not under contract though, then you can basically put something like home will be under contract by day 30. And
boilerplate.
You got it. Under contract by day 30, closed by day 60. It's not boilerplated in there, by the way. You have to put, you have to put the dates in there.
Well, yeah, the dates aren't, but it says we'll be under contract by this date. And
But you type that date in, don't you?
Yeah.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
oh, yeah.
So if you don't add those and you just accept an offer, basically, that doesn't have dates in there, and you just give them full 60 days to close the deal, and you don't have deadlines that they must hit along that transaction, they can drag you out for 60 days without getting under contract. And technically you can't cancel on them because you gave them that 60-day window.
Yeah.
All right, so this is the buyer contingency addendum. Who's seen it? Who's filled it out? So this is what we were talking about right here. You got two different options. So this one says contingent upon accepted offer on buyer's property right here. So that means if their house isn't under contract yet, right? You check that box.
So you would add this with your offer.
You got it. So when you guys submit an offer, there's those little boxes that says addenda is attached. And there's a little box that says buyer contingency. You have to check that box. So there's like HOA addendum. There's a couple different addendum. You want to check the buyer contingency addendum. And this always goes as a rider. I get a lot of offers that don't have this as a rider. It says it's contingent.
Really?
Oh yeah. And they don't even send this over. Drives me nuts. What happens if you guys go under contract and someone's contingent and they don't disclose their contingency to you?
Well, that's materially affecting it.
How would you find out if they're contingent?
Other lender.
There you go. Remember that phone call thing we were talking about before?
Also, pull batteries.
What's that?
You could
I'll
also
be here all
look
day,
up
boys.
like the listing and.
What if they say they don't own a home? They're like, oh, I'm just renting.
So you're a liar.
So we had this happen to me 2 years ago. I had a house listed in Mulberry, the Mulberry community over there. Had it listed up. We had an open house on the property. Couple came through the open house, liked it, left, didn't say anything to us, submitted an offer on the property, and we go under contract on it. And then we accept it. Lender was like, it was a weekend, that's what it was. I remember, and I was like a Friday. We were trying to call the lender, Lender didn't answer the phone. We accepted the offer. And so Sunday, they basically gave us till like Sunday. And agents like, oh yeah, I promise they're good, they're solid, they're ready to rock and roll, basically. So we accept the offer, we move forward. They go through the inspection period, and they end up out of nowhere on like day 9 canceling on us. The reason they canceled was they said the neighborhood is unsafe and there's a high crime rate. And this is in a community basically that's Mulberry, East Mesa, newer community, new area. You can cancel for that. You can say you can cancel really for any reason in that 10-day inspection period, if that's a legit reason, right? But the contingency on that was, we were talking about it, and the agent that had done the open house, I'm like, who are these people? I pull them up on Facebook. I'm like, what the hell? I mean, this area is a high crime rate. And the agent that did the open house was like, I saw them. They were at the open house. Those were the people that came through the open house, and they told me they lived in the neighborhood. So we take their name, and we copy and paste it into Monsoon. They own a house a street behind the one we had listed, and their house was actively for sale. So they were trying to sell their house to buy ours. Their house was pending under contract, and ironically, their house fell out of contract the same day that they canceled on me.
Did you fight them?
Yeah, we did fight them. So then I take a screenshot after the agent messages me and says they're canceling, contacts title. Says, hey, they're like, yeah, we're canceling, too much crime in the area. So I take a screenshot of their address and their house, the agent's listing, and I put it in the email, and I respond to title and everybody, and I said, it's interesting to say it's high crime rate in the area because the buyer lives in the neighborhood. Yeah. And then I take a screenshot of the purchase contract where they did not include a copy of the contingency upon the property that they had. Basically, they didn't tell us they had a property they needed to sell. So we called the lender, and the lender's like, oh yeah, they're contingent. Lender finally calls us back on,
Lender must send you proof though, right?
same day. Right, so we fight it, and we actually kept their earnest deposit because they lied on the purchase contract, and it was with our title company. So they were trying to dispute it, and I said, well, it's a material fact. The reason you said you canceled on us, basically, was because you said it was because of crime in the area, but in realistic, you didn't tell us you had a house to sell. Your lender said you had a house to sell. It was contingent. They forwarded it over, and on that transaction, basically, we found out, we ended up fighting it, we got the EM. They ended up releasing it to us. So, just goes to show, you know, you got to.
Why?
That's why calling the lender, like to our point, having that conversation with the lender on the front end of that before you accept an offer. Are they contingent? Are they not contingent? Is there anything I need to know about these? Just do your guys' due diligence to protect your seller before accepting offers. That's just a little example of why that was important.
We got the same thing like that.
You got the same thing?
No.
So right here, if seller does not cancel the contract within 3 days of the receipt of the accepted offer documents, this contract shall be contingent upon the closing. And then right here, contingent upon the closing of the buyer's property. So that's the box you would check if your buyer's house is already under contract. 2 different boxes. Make sure you guys pay attention to that because I see that one get mixed up quite a bit.
What about the top with the page
No.
2?
Right here.
The very top.
Yep, time period.
The
So,
differences between checking those and
so the date that the signed contract and any incorporated counteroffer is delivered to and received by the appropriate broker, or 3 days after the seller's receipt of buyer's accepted offer. So that gives you windows. Do you want to send it the exact day, or do you want to give them 3-day window to send the accepted offer? I say 3-day window, but I like to give myself time, but that's up to you guys. They could counter you back and say, we want to know the day you get under contract. So I don't really know why that's in there. I don't really know the benefit of giving it, but that seems like a weird thing to get. Yeah, that seems like a weird thing to give offers on, but. All right, hopefully you guys are finding some value in some of the videos you guys are seeing from me. If you guys do find the value, I would like you guys to like and subscribe. If you guys know of any agents that could use some of these tips, tricks, or anything like that, feel free to share it with them. And I will be dropping more videos like this coming soon, so keep an eye out for them.